Today I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about what's going on in Star Citizen. This is my first video that's a little different than other ones I've done. I've done mostly tactical displays, various situations in game, whether that be in space, in the air above planets, on the ground, first person, and I don't often talk about some of the more important things that I see coming in the future for this game. This video is unique for that reason. And I think one of the most important elements that's coming in the game, and it's more of a role that many of you are going to find yourselves in, is the captain. And we're going to talk a little about that today. I want to give you a little bit of history about my experience in the game. I kind of started out about 2014 playing Star Citizen, and early in the game I earned my wings on the Gladiator. I've always been a torpedo pilot. I've also had a lot of success in the Razor EX. So sometimes I find myself in those two extremes as a pilot. But more often than not, I'm finding myself in more leadership type roles. And in my time in the game, I've played under many organizations, all of them different terrains, different aspects of the game, different focuses. That's as of this recording, May 2019. I've done this in a variety of roles. I've helped leadership. I've been a part of leadership. I've founded organizations. Some of them PMC or pirate organizations. Some of them lawful organizations. And in my time, I've seen organizations grow, and I've seen them destroy themselves for a variety of reasons. And that's over a very short period of time, since 2014. It's 5 years as of this. So I've come to conclude that really task forces and the ability to form limited groups with specific focuses over a very short period of time, I think it's probably the best way to go. People get bogged down in their organizational roles and their bylaws and every little moment. But as we go through this game and we bring more large ships into the game, many of you are going to find yourselves in that captain's chair, and that's what this video is a little bit about. Just kind of an introduction to my philosophy regarding captains and their duties, which may give you kind of a different insight about the game, and also may get you thinking about how you define victory. So let's get started. Let's talk about the captain's role. So, in a traditional environment, captain's role, he's in charge of the crew. In a sense, the captain functions much like a manager. It's a traditional role. To be a good leader, to possess excellent interpersonal skills, communicate, give orders to the crew. The captain also monitors the performance of people who are kind of long-term players on his ship. He's responsible to make sure everybody gets paid. He's responsible to make sure that grievances, whatever those grievances are, or if there's disagreements, any kind of disagreement, that it's solved and in the best way possible. And the captain's also in charge of assembling the crew, right? Which we'll talk about a little bit more about that later. A captain should be familiar with all the roles on his ship. You know, if you're flying a reclaimer or a specialized vessel, whatever that vessel can do, you as a captain should be familiar with every role and what makes someone good for that role and not. Especially when you get in on the industrial side, there may be some roles that are very repetitive and would bore some people, and for other people it may be the best, their best experience in the game. So you have to figure out what those roles involve, and that's a part of your hiring decision, your assignment of that role. So, because it may mean that you may have to help that person to perform to their best. And but last but not least, the duty of the captain is still welfare of the crew, passengers, and the cargo. Right? That's a traditional role. Now, in a non-traditional role, which you find more in pirate organizations or PMCs, you might find a much more rigid definition than that. You may also find that a lot of rules that are in place in quote-unquote pirate organizations are there to kind of keep everybody in line, more than they are, to promote excellence. They're more about, don't do this, don't do that. They're a little bit more restrictive, and maybe about things that don't really matter sometimes. It's just depends. But those are non-traditional. So I can't really throw all that info at you and not give you some very practical examples. And the reason why I have up here on this video, hero or not, is because in my philosophy, the captain represents the best of what either your organization or your ship, can provide. He's the best of that group, right? And sometimes that's gonna mean some very tough calls. And unlike other games where really the end result is only on you, you win or lose. This game is not going to be that way. You may lose and win at the same time. Let me give you an example. So earlier today, entered into orbit around a planet, and then I was in a constellation with a crew, and then right behind me, several other fighters who were, warped in also, and started fighting. Immediately they started shooting at us. And in a pirate organization, the best of what I could be would be to turn the ship around and destroy the foes, whoever they are. But in a traditional role, you have your crew to think of. You have the cargo to think of. You have passengers to think of. You have your ship to think of. Those repairs are going to cost something. Someone's going to have to pay for that. If you are shipping something really valuable, do you want to lose what you've got just because you want to turn around and fight those guys? Probably not. So maybe you lost the altercation in a very kind of simplistic way, but you by saying, "Hey, no, I'm going to turn and warp away," I get to keep everything. Everything is the same as it was what it was before the incident occurred. That's a victory. And I think that's the measuring stick that you're going to have to use if you're thinking of yourself as a traditional captain. When something bad happens, how much can damage or loss can you, as a captain, your decisions mitigate? Maybe sometimes the answer may be that you should show force. If you're captain of an Idris or Polaris, and there are other assets that are important to your organization that if you don't fight, then you lose all that, whatever that is, and that represents an equation of time and effort of everyone in your organization. Well, okay, maybe the time is to do that, but you have to think tactically. Am I on the best tactical terms? You can always retreat and come back, or ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that. A captain is the best of what an organization can offer. The best decision making, the best expertise, is a tactical, strategic thinker. Some of the people that are on your ship, your pilot or your gunner, or the other roles you have, you have to use their skills, the best of whatever their best abilities are. So you're all working together, representing the best of what your ship and your organization can provide, if that's the case. So, in that scenario, you can lose and still win. And so that's how I've envisioned what a great captain, a hero is. Not a lot of people will think of it in those terms, especially on the PMC and the pirate side. They won't think of it in that way. So it's mainly because they're only really fighting for destruction and kind of a plunder. If they had to sacrifice each other, and in fact they do on a regular basis, they fight each other as a way of betterment, right? So the value of the individual is not that high. It's a much more brutal and a different way of looking at things. Not that there isn't something to be gained or learned from it, but you have to ask yourself, is that the kind of hero that you want to be? You could be any kind of hero you want to be. So that's why it may inconvenience you. Let me give you another example. example number 2. So let's say you're holding down a trade post. You know, if it's a drug lab or some other place that's valuable to your organization, and you're doing some economic activity. Traditionally, right? A traditional role. Yeah, neutral enters the area. The captain is notified. The fleet is notified. Okay. In a non-traditional role, you would treat that person as hostile. You don't know who they are. Treat them as hostile and shoot them on sight. Which is better? Which is the kind of hero you want to be? It's harder to play the more traditional role where you say, okay, you know, let's give this person the opportunity. If they show aggression, then shoot them. That's harder, because by then you have to be attacking from, you know, having already taken some damage, or you take a risk that you might. But a good captain can tactically make that decision and do it in a way where the risk is low. And that also depends on your organization, what their rules are. But a good captain can think tactically. It is harder. Yeah, the easy choice is destroy them. the hard choice is, let's see. That's the hard choice. You know, looking at their ship. What do they have? What kind of ship is it? It's a freelancer. You know, what is it? You know, how close are they? What's their speed? You know, are there other aggressors in the area? All kinds of decisions tactically that captains have to make. It's harder to be that traditional role, kind of follow that captain as a hero. That's much more difficult. It's much easier to say, I don't know who that is, let's kill it. So that's much harder. And you need people. You need people to help you. You need people to trade with. You need people to help you out. Relationships. That's what business is all about, right? So, question is, you know, what's the goal? What's your organization's goal in the area? You know, if it's a extremely hostile area, then maybe that is the best thing to do. And if that's the, you know, kind of what the organization has decided, you know, we're just gonna clean this whole area out. It's all bad. It's all bad. Nobody here is any good, right? Captain gets to kind of use that and follow those guidelines, whatever they are. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the traditional role, and I think most people kind of understand those basic things about, you know, what the hero model or traditional role of the captain. So let's talk a little bit about the non-traditional or pirate or PMC role. How a captain in that non-traditional or pirate or PMC role would handle situations, because I've done both. Probably the maybe a little over half, or maybe more, of all of the organizations in EVE were pirate. You know, shoot first, ask questions later. EVE Online was a game before this that a lot of people who had played that also play this. And you'll find that a lot of very experienced PMCs and power organizations have people in them who have played in that environment. So one of the key philosophies or acronyms that you'll find in a pirate organization is what we call NBSI. So, not blue, shoot it. Right? So, if its status was not friendly, shoot it on sight. Don't think about it. Just kill it. Right? And in EVE, that became kind of an accepted norm. And the game, even to this day, EVE Online is still it's a very precarious place. There's a lot that goes on in that game that is just heinous, really. Now, some people like it, so I played it for a long time, so that kind of gives you a hint about my background. I have done that. I've played that game, so I know how dark that gets. So, but NBSI is the cornerstone of the philosophy of most ETH players. There are very few organizations that CVA may have been one that would tolerate neutral players entering their area and not killing them. It was seen as a way to foster trade in their area. So that's the only big exception from my experience that I could think of. But most people, if they don't know what it is, just kill it. So you'll find there's a lot of people in Star Citizen who take that same approach. And so then that decision kind of cascades all the way down through the hierarchy, through organizational regulations, through the rules that organizations put together, and how they interact with other organizations. In fact, if you don't kind of accept that, then they don't really not interested in making alliances or treaties or whatever. So in this game, you'll find there are organizations that are what in the real world dual-breasted, right? So they have both. The corporation has a good and it also has a bad side, right? So, but they play under different names. There are other organizations also the same way, where they may have two sides. One is this kind of friendly and traditional role of leadership, and the other is more like the NBSI or Pirate or PMC branch, right? And they may have different flags, and they may have just totally different players. So that is a very strong possibility, and I have seen that. So a non-traditional captain, let's put him in the situation we talked about earlier. Surprise attack, what do? You meet them with force. That's what they're trained to do. Meet everything with force. Call for backup if you got to, evade the guy, pilot it, be a good pilot. And by being a good pilot, you evade him, you dodge, you shoot, get that good opportunity to kill the person, to kill this ship that's attacking you, right? So that's that other philosophy. Same thing with the drug lab, or if there's a merchant area, lock it down, kill everything, Anybody who comes in that area while you're in that area, they die. Doesn't matter who they are. You know, it's simpler. It's a simple way to think about things, and you have to, because if you're gonna make it such a drastic decision, the any hesitation will get you killed, because those organizations get a reputation, and anybody who knows those people, as soon as they see that person, whoever it is, it's in that leadership role, they see that banner, they're gonna also attack. You know, so the price of playing that way is that everybody you meet wants to kill you. And you're judged by how many people know you and want to kill you. So that's what victory looks like under that situation. It's unfortunate because the death price in this game is going to be a little bit more intense. That's what we've been told, than other games. In Eve, you would have another clone. You might lose some skills when you die, or your implants. Here in this game, you know, it adds a line to your story. So and so died, and your next in line takes the place of that person. You know, your character. So it's a very kind of matriarchal or family line situation, which is unique. So, you know, they're also, since they spend so much time, you know, doing that, they're not very good at negotiating either. So, because that's not a skill they would value. Doesn't fit in that mold. All those other, like I said, once you've made that decision, everybody who's neutral, kill them. All these other decisions also reflect that core value. Something to be aware of, you know, when you're joining an organization. I would put it on the scale. I would say, you know, PMCs and then pirates, right? So it is kind of a gray area with PMCs, but it's for the most part true that they're going to play by that playbook. You know, if you're not paying them, then you're the enemy that day, right? PMCs. You know, pirates don't care, but a PMC, they will have loyalty, but only to what they're being paid to do. Just a thought. So I just wanted to wrap this up here. I've been talking very just kind of frankly and maybe rambling a little, but if you're new to the game, or you've never really thought about what it's going to take to be the kind of hero that you want to be the kind of captain that you want to be the kind of crew member you want to be, hopefully this has kind of shed some light on some of that, got you thinking about what kind of hero you want to be and what kind of organization you might want to be in. So we'll talk more specifically about the nuances of the traditional captain role. Talk more about tactics, procedures, and things that captains should follow. I think there's a great opportunity to kind of explore that. You know, what works well, what doesn't, and how to get the best outcome. But for now, I say adieu. If there's hopefully something in here you found very valuable, and you can always reach out to me on YouTube. Also available in-game Vader Hexagon, And I do appreciate your time. Be well.